At the highest tier of competition, the only thing that matters are wins and losses. And when it comes to this measure of success, there can be no greater failure than the Shanghai Dragons. A team so bad, so universally representative of failure, that they hold the unbeatable record of the longest losing streak of any professional competitive team. While that record does outline the results, it's only a small detail that leaves out the true value of the story. So join me on the deep dive as we take a look at the longest losing streak in history and see what it finally took to awaken the dragon. Before exploring how they managed to have everything go completely wrong, it's important to look at how they started. When it comes to Chinese esports, it seems they've never struggled to put together top-tier teams that can compete on the world stage. This was also true when it came to Overwatch, as one of the best teams in the world competing at the time was comprised entirely of Chinese players that were competing with, and beating, some of the best teams in the similarly competitive Korean market. So when Miraculous Youngsters was disbanded mere months before the Overwatch League was set to begin, there was little doubt that many of the players on this incredible roster were going to end up signed to the recently announced team of the Shanghai Dragons. And on October 31st, the Dragons released their official roster, and it wasn't exactly what people were expecting. It included Zushu from Team 1246, Freefeel and Roshan from FTD Gaming, Five King from IG Ice, and Dia from Vici Gaming. But most curiously, Altering, MG, and Undead, all from the struggling LGD gaming team that would end up raising some eyebrows.
Could they have made a better roster, perhaps, because that's been a lot of the controversy?
I think you could definitely apologise for the leader. How you chose your players might be a good example of that.
They don't have the right support players. They have limitations in terms of their DPS, and they may not have the right players to actually deal.
It seems the controversy stirring before the first season had even started was more to do with how the roster came together rather than the players themselves. It turns out that one of the prominent voices in its assembly was the Shanghai Dragons head coach Chen Yu4 Kongshen. And where was Yu4 coaching before he got called up to the majors for Overwatch League? None other than the struggling LGD gaming team that a handful of players on the roster had been pulled from. When coupled with some of the conduct concerns regarding his coaching style that we'll get into a little later, it seems likely that instead of assembling the best team possible, Yu4 may have opted to bring in at least a small handful of players he knew he could already push around a bit. How he got the job is impossible to say based on the extremely middle-of-the-road performance at his last coaching job, but as unfortunate to the start of this situation would be, it wouldn't stave off the oncoming start of Overwatch League's first ever season. So with little other choice than to soldier on and make their best effort, the Shanghai Dragons lined up for their preseason debut, and the issues they would struggle with all season began to emerge.
In terms of the Shanghai Dragons, we're seeing not very good execution with any of their comps.
And Shanghai stalled out a little bit here.
All right, so Shanghai Dragons, clearly they need to fix the fundamentals.
Oh man, that is a problem for Shanghai. Shanghai just left the payload alone.
The Shanghai Dragons lacked a bit of cohesion. It's not working right now for the Shanghai Dragons.
This is just devastating for Shanghai.
In the 10 games that represent the first stage of Season 1, the Shanghai Dragons would finish with a record of 0 wins and 10 straight losses. Fans remained hopeful, but when it came to their opponents and even the commentators of the Overwatch League, there was little faith left that the team as it existed would have a chance at recovery.
The Shanghai Dragons seem condemned to an eternal torture where victory is perpetually just a little bit out of reach. The signing window has now opened. You can end your torture. The time is now to make these changes. I'm looking forward to the announcements. They cannot possibly come soon enough.
Shanghai would eventually make the change, but far later than they probably should have. Not only did they remain without a win for the first 8 matches of Stage 2, but they also had a losing streak of 24 straight maps without even taking a single round off an opponent. Desperate for a change, the Dragons added some much-needed depth to their roster, bringing in Otto in on DPS, Fearless on tank, and shortly thereafter, one more addition on off-tank that would soon become the face of the franchise. With the team unable to claim their first win in Stage 2, Hopes were high going into Stage 3 that the new additions would be enough to tip the scales in their favor for the team's first win in franchise history. Unfortunately, fate would prove unkind to the Dragons once more, as the stability of the team was thrown into chaos. The Dragons would lose their head coach towards the end of Stage 2. Then they would also lose Undead, due to a litany of scandalous allegations that would see him let go for reasons they did not clarify. The Dragons were without consistency in their leadership and had to adapt to half of their roster being new. To make matters worse, half the team now also spoke a different language, creating numerous instances of games being lost and a small handful of plays where communication issues caused catastrophic results.
You got a lot of Chinese players speaking Mandarin. You have a lot of Korean players who are trying to learn English.
They're using very basic Chinese as well as some English. She wanted to ask in Chinese for healing. However, she ever so slightly mispronounced something and she kind of ended up just swearing like a sailor.
If these issues weren't bad enough on their own, the faceless internet mob does what it always does and discovered that several players on the team were spending numerous hours playing PUBG, suggesting that instead of practicing, they were simply writing off the season and spending their time playing games and hanging out. An internal investigation was launched, and of course none of the allegations were true, but it did reveal that these played games took place on their precious few days off that they're allowed each month. Despite the internet's notoriety for getting almost any form of investigation wrong, it did provide the benefit of revealing one piece of important information. It seems that the Shanghai Dragons weren't just working hard. Working hard is pretty much all they were allowed to do.
This team played the most, practiced the most out of any team in the Overwatch League. Because we were all in the same practice facility. We're in the same hallway. We can hear them, right? They were there first and they left last. There is rumors of practice regimes and their schedules and stuff like that, and I can probably attest to that of like, they were just there all the fucking time. But Shanghai Dragons were just endless in their routine. They would leave at like midnight. They were expected to play like hours and hours of ranked. They were at least playing at like 14 hours a day. I think they were playing like 14 hours a day of Overwatch.
By the time they had reached 36 straight losses, their entire season only had 4 more matches left, with a trio of challenging teams at the tail end of the schedule. For their 37th match, many believed their best and last chance to finally claim their first win would be against the second worst team in the league in the 6-30 Florida Mayhem. Despite coming out strong, they would drop the first round.
And there it is, the Mayhem!
Then steel their nerve to take the second.
It's a tie game here.
And give reason to believe by pushing ahead to take the third.
When the Dragons inch ahead in the series, it's 2-1.
Only to then falter, setting up a final fight to the finish.
And it's a map 5!
Taking this match to a map 5 made it the closest match they'd had since their 8th of the season.
Now, it's scrubbed clean of Shanghai in the first round to the Mayhem.
Their first win was so close they could taste it. All they needed to do was win 2 rounds, and the match was theirs.
They're going to get their match, and there it is. Okay.
1 point to decide it all.
And after 36 straight losses, in the absolute last round of the last match, in what many considered to be their last good chance of the season,
Beloved Dragons, today is not your day.
they fell short. The Dragons would go on to lose their last 3 matches of the season as well, all without taking a single round, and would bring their season to a close with an unfortunately perfect 0-40 record. The Shanghai Dragons were unable to achieve even a single victory in the entire first season of the Overwatch League. Not because they lacked heart or dedication, and not even because they lacked the skill. They simply never had leadership. They never had a battlefield general that could look at all of their individual roles and put the pieces together when the game was on the line. And as they looked ahead to the challenges they would face in Season 2, they would get it. While Shanghai was going through the worst ordeal in the history of the league, there was another team on the opposite side of the globe that was facing their own troubles. After a respectable finish of 26-14, Boston's winning record must have felt like an absolute miracle considering the problems that cropped up throughout their first season. While the ridiculousness of their journey in Season 1 is worthy of a video on its own, its fundamental message would ultimately show that as the team was falling apart, one player loaded everyone on his back to keep it together. While it's fair to say that they had some talent on their team, it was no secret that Gamsu and his methodical tank play were responsible for much of what they were able to achieve. When it comes to what Shanghai was missing from Season 1, the addition of a tank that could control space, secure kills, and bring a level of play that earned not 1, not 2, but 3 Player of the Week nominations during the first season was sure to bring a lot to the table. Which made it all the more surprising that Boston would be willing to trade him away, and perhaps even slightly disappointing to Gamsu that he would be traded to the winless Dragons.
Gamsu did get shanghaied by the Dragons, so he's here now. He's going to be playing on this roster.
특별히 뭔가 리더십이 있다고 생각하지 않는데 약간 저 같은 경우는 팀을 이끌기보다는 먼저 스스로 잘하고 열심히 하는 모습을 보여줘서 다른 선수들의 영감을 받을 수 있게 하는 게 목표예요.
And with that, the second season of the Overwatch League began. Along with a few strong additions to the team during the offseason, the Dragons had a whole new swagger coming into Season 2. And with the promise that he would make his new Shanghai fans proud, the Dragons would rally around their new leader to do battle with the rest of the league once more. Unfortunately for Shanghai, the hill they had to climb for their first win would prove steep, as they dropped their first match of Season 2 in a 3-1 loss against the Hangzhou Spark. Concern would continue to mount as they found themselves on the losing end of their second match in a 4-0 pummeling against the Vancouver Titans. But their third match of the season was different. Not only were they going up against a strong team, it was the same team that Gamsu had led to a winning season only a few short months ago. But now, in the third match of the season, in the 43rd outing for the team without a win, Gamsu would remind the Uprising what they had lost.
Welcome to the Overwatch League. Say goodnight. He goes off the side. Axiom now going to get dropped. And the Shanghai Dragons are slaughtering Boston Uprising. They will take Ruins.
After taking the first match with an emphatic statement, Shanghai would prove they had the will to win by beating Boston in an overtime victory for the second match.
Taken out. EMP dumped in by Ding to try to turn things around. And it is going to work a treat. No popped up. Eliminated. The tick comes through. And Shanghai Dragons lead the series 2-0.
Now in the driver's seat and only one match away from their first win ever, the path to victory would be their toughest fight yet. After starting the third match by going even on rounds, the contest would demand everything from both teams as they would complete a full push on offense to score a tie during overtime. And after successfully defending against Boston's assault during double overtime, Shanghai only needed to win one fight to secure their first victory ever.
At the second ticks, getting ready to go through. Kellick's going to be eliminated. Prince sentence is out for me, God, but it's going to expire. They will be able to finish him up. There you go. Going to get it. Just a couple more percent to go. Let them have it, Boston. Axiom, top of the primal rank, but it does not matter.
If the reaction of those in attendance was all you had to go on, it would be easy to think that this match was for the league championship, or to set a new historic win streak, or maybe even to keep a team's playoff hopes alive. But it wasn't. The Shanghai Dragons had simply gotten a single win. It didn't matter who your favorite team was, what jersey you were wearing at the time, or who you showed up to cheer for. If you were there to see it, you were a Shanghai Dragons fan. Resiliency is an interesting concept. The idea that you can be beaten down to the point where you become stronger certainly sounds like an unusual notion. But much like the saying goes, the Shanghai Dragons proved that once you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. The Shanghai Dragons would finish Stage 1 with a record of 3-4. They'd carry the momentum of improvement through Stage 2, and then, only 5 short months after the team's first ever win, the Shanghai Dragons would carry a 5-2 record into the playoffs to be crowned the Stage 3 champions.
It's been a long time coming for this squad. No one could have seen
this future, this was an incredible story, and it's something that I think people are going to remember for years to come.